We all know about the Utah Jazz potentially trading for Russell Westbrook and the Lakers getting some solid vets. The Lakers just want to put themselves in a position to potentially either get a star next season, a Kyrie Irving, something along those lines, and not mess up any future cap space. Obviously, that's why they don't want to take guys like Mike Conley without, keeping their draft picks, stuff like that. They want to preserve space. They want to get some solid rotation, veteran guys from the Utah Jazz, things like that to help the team now. But it would also give them the flexibility because guys like, Beasley and Bogdanovich, they're both expiring deals. If you can keep your picks, Mike Conley, you could easily move off next season. So it makes a lot of sense. Now, the Lakers are essentially in a position where instead of going deep and in depth, they want that other star. It's why they want like Kyrie Irving, why they're preserving cap space to try to free up a max. So that way they could go get a Kyrie, something along those lines. So what if the Lakers could get somebody this season that could really help in that department, but also for the future? What if that person was Chris Paul? Now, Chris Paul being traded for Russell Westbrook has already happened once, and it's something that was rumored already with the Lakers. Chris Paul at one point was a Laker until the NBA vetoed it, and it's always kind of one of those big questions of what if. LeBron and Chris Paul are huge friends. Chris Paul is that third star. He's that guy that can alleviate LeBron. He's somebody that, one of the few people in the entire league that LeBron would trust enough to be able to give up ball handling duties, especially in late games, especially in crunch time, stuff like that. Chris Paul doesn't have to be the number 1 or number 2 guy. He would be the number 3 guy, and that would be really good and really beneficial for his age. But the biggest reason is the whole Sauver situation, right? I mean, he already went through the Donald Sterling one, right? So is he going to want to play for an owner that is very similar to past situations he's been in? And he was the head of the Players Association. I don't believe he is anymore, but at one point he was. And so he's a guy that's always been very outspoken, very room for those kind of things and antics from these owners in the NBA. You don't need it. And the whole sovereign situation, however you feel about it, I don't want to turn this into like a conversation about that. But look, he deserved a lot more than that. Donald Sterling, great example. You don't need it. But the point is, Chris Paul, he's somebody that he doesn't like that. Is he really going to play for another owner like that again? Like the whole situation that already happened with the Clippers, and now he's dealing with that with the Suns and stuff. It's a mess. And it's just, so would he say, I want out of this situation and I want to go to the Lakers? Would the Lakers have to give up picks? Something like, seriously, I know that might sound silly, but one, Chris Paul, he's got several years on his deal. He's got like $30 million a year till 2025. So that's a big salary and a long time still to get somebody like that. But a guy to the level of Chris Paul, I think the Lakers would be willing to take on that cap space. I think it would also probably keep LeBron longer, which is what they want, right? They're very high on keeping LeBron here. I think LeBron stays as long as Chris Paul's contract is up, or until Chris Paul's contract is up. So you'd have basically CP3, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis till 2025, which I think could be really huge for the Lakers. And I think that he is one of the star power type players, a guy that is still good enough, and I think would hugely serve from being on a team like the Lakers because he doesn't have to be the primary guy. He doesn't have to handle the ball duty all the time. He could actually play off the ball, right? I mean, he worked great with James Harden. So he would work great with LeBron James. And so I think that LeBron, he wants to move off the ball, so you could have that be the case. But you could also run sets where either of them can handle the ball. They could both play together, stuff like that. It'd be very easily. You get everything you want from like a shooting standpoint, a veteran standpoint, a player standpoint, a guy that can still put buckets up, guy that can still close out games for you, all of that stuff. Chris Paul would be huge, I think, for the Lakers. It's just his salary and his age become a real problem, and, of course, his injury history. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? You already got Anthony Davis. You already got LeBron James. So that is a legit concern, but you might not have to give anything up for that. One, if Chris Paul wants out, and starts making a mess, the Suns might not want that mess. And there was a lot of questions about Sauver even giving Chris Paul that max contract because he's been notoriously cheap. So I think if he could move off of Chris Paul's contract and take on Russ for a year, I think he would. I really do. I think he would, especially after all the antics. And if Chris Paul really made a fuss, I think he would be out. I think if Chris Paul said, I want to go to Lakers, I think he'd be out of the Lakers. And then if at that point, Lakers would have the leverage. Now, maybe they have to give up a first-round pick, but again, Chris Paul's contract and Chris Paul's age is real. Like, who else would take Chris Paul? You know, like, that's a big, like, if Chris Paul wants out because of these antics, or he refuses to play or something like that, like, I don't know. Look, I don't think that that's going to happen. This is just solely hypothetical. This is just solely just a conversational video that I want to, of course, hear your thoughts and opinions on. So let me know down in the comment section below. But I was just thinking about it. Like, with everything going on with the Suns, Chris Paul being Chris Paul, like, would he say, I want out? You know, I want to be done with this. Or would he look at it kind of like the Clippers situation, where it was kind of like, I'm not here for the owner. I'm here for my teammates. I'm here for that, which I think is the more likely scenario. But I just think it's at least an interesting thought that Chris Paul, the history with the Lakers, his history with LeBron, stuff like that. He's a star that I think the Lakers would be willing to take him on, especially if it keeps LeBron here till at least 2025. And then at that point, you have nobody on your books. So you could just completely start fresh. And Chris Paul would only take up $30 million. So that in this situation, this would be a mutually beneficial trade. Because one, the Suns, who's going to take Chris Paul on that contract and give up assets? There's probably not a team in the league that would do that. And so at least Westbrook is your get out of jail free card, right? Westbrook is a complete board wipe for that. You could also give the Lakers like a Jay Crowder, who he seems to want out, and who knows what happens now after this situation. There's all the drama going on with Crowder, so maybe you could get a Crowder and a Chris Paul, which that would be interesting, having LeBron James and Crowder on the same team. But look, they're professionals, they're adults, they'll be fine. But Crowder's also an expiring deal, so there you go. But Chris Paul being only $30 million, I think that could help the Lakers have some flexibility, especially if the cap does go up and the Lakers do end up having $44 million. They would still have, their, taxpayers and, their player exceptions to go and sign guys, stuff like that. So the Lakers would be in a really good spot if that was the case. And if you're Phoenix, Westbrook could help you for a year. You don't get the same type of orchestrated point guard play that you would get, but Westbrook at least would keep you competitive, at least would be a guy that night in, night out could go get you buckets. So I think that could work, and you're only riding it out for a year. Look, I said before this season even began, and this was before the whole Sovereign thing, like, I thought the Phoenix Suns would take a huge step back this year, because I think, one, Chris Paul's a year older. I think, two, you got DeAndre Ayton, who doesn't want to be there. You have the Jay Crowder mess and situation, and now, on top of all of that, and this team already, just underperforming last season, now you add the Sovereign thing. Like, I just think that I could just see this being really bad for the Suns this year. I don't think they missed the playoffs or anything like that, but I could see this Suns team not going very well, and the locker room kind of being a mess and stuff like that. So I just think about it as like, if you're the Suns, would this be something that you would want to do? Like, just, you know what? Let's eat Westbrook for a year. He might actually keep us just as good, if not, maybe even arguably better, because he's younger. He's not going to miss games. He's going to play. Him and Devin Booker can kind of work that out and stuff. Like, maybe we'd even be better. But we get off of Chris Paul's long-term salary. We only have to ride Westbrook out for at least a year. If the wheels fall off, the wheels fall off, and we just kind of retool next year. This was just a bad year, the whole owner situation. Like, I could just see it making sense for the Phoenix Suns, where they're just like, you know what, like, let's just kind of hit the reset button here. Let's take a step back. Let's go do that. Again, I don't think this would happen. I don't think that the Suns are, like, this is even a thought for the Suns. I don't even think that this is a thought for the Lakers. I'm not even saying the Lakers would do this, because that is a lot of long-term salary. Not only is that a lot of long-term salary, but it's an older guy who has, injury history. Basically everything that I mentioned earlier about the concerns. Long-term salary, his age, his injury history, stuff like that. I don't think the Lakers would. I just think that it's an interesting thought, because it's kind of this. It seems like something the Lakers would do, and I can see the Lakers looking at it as like, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James, like that. That's a good big three. We got all these young guys around them. So, LeBron and Chris Paul can kind of take the load off of each other. Anthony Davis gets two guards that can really set him up and put him in the right positions. Like, I think these three would be fantastic together. I really do. I think that they would work seamlessly together. I just would have my concerns because all three of your stars are injury prone. Granted, you could say the same thing about a Kyrie Irving if you go get a Kyrie. Not necessarily the injury, but just, being unreliable, period. So I can understand the argument either way, but it does sound like something the Lakers would do. Like, hey, we want a star. There's no guarantee Kyrie comes. We have $44 million. We could get Chris Paul for $30 million in the next few years, and the salary cap is supposed to jump up again in 2025. So maybe that Chris Paul $30 million would be like the equivalent of like $20 million a year. And now we have two salary jumps, and then we could build, an actual team around these three next year, be competitive this year, this, that, and the other. Like, it just sounds like something the Lakers would do, if I'm being honest. And I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, because there is no guarantee Kyrie comes. And if Kyrie doesn't come, like, what else is there? Unless like a Bradley Beal or something like that decides, I don't want to be in Washington anymore, then I think if you could get Chris Paul, you get Chris Paul, especially on $30 million. You'd still have cap space. You'd still be in a good position. You got a big three that would work well together. You got a big three that would be competitive. Chris Paul and LeBron James are friends, so you got that. You probably keep LeBron longer, because I don't think LeBron leaves Chris Paul if they're playing together. I think LeBron at least stays. He probably does another 1+1 and then rides out that last year, him and Chris Paul. Chris Paul probably retires. LeBron goes plays with his son. I can see that absolutely being the case that shapes up. And then, Anthony Davis, hopefully Anthony Davis holds up and stuff. Like, I think these three, if they were on the same team, would be a really good team. I think that they would be monstrous together if they could stay healthy. I think if you got these three into the playoffs, good luck. Good luck. With as smart as Chris Paul is, as smart as LeBron James is, having a monster and Anthony Davis plus all those young guys and stuff, this would be a really good team. My biggest concern would be injuries and things like that. But anyway, again, this is not a rumor. This is not a report. This is not anything. This is just like when I heard and read up on the whole Sarver situation and the thing, and I saw Chris Paul's comments and LeBron's comments, stuff like that. It just reminded me of the whole Donald Sterling situation. And I could see Chris Paul saying, I want out. And if he did do that, I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he is even thinking about that. I don't know either way. Again, I'm just some dude on the internet making videos for entertainment and fun. So that's all this is an entertaining, fun video of, do you think Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook would make sense? Do you think got to give up picks, no picks? Because I don't think you'd have to give up picks. Maybe like a pick swap or something just to keep it enticing, but why? Like, who else? Like, if you're the Lakers, who else is going to take Chris Paul in his contract, especially if Chris Paul only wants to go to the Lakers? Like, let's say he's like, I want to go to the Lakers and that's it. Then if you're the Suns, the best case scenario you could get would be Russell Westbrook, because then you basically clear that space next year, and you have like all your other guys falling off the book except for Ayton. So now you can just build a team around Booker and Ayton. So I don't think that's the worst case scenario either. I think that would be great for the Suns. But anyway, love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let me know down in the comment section below. Quick little shameless plug, everyone. If you enjoy my videos and commentary here on this channel, As It Stands Lakers, then check out the link down in the description below and go subscribe to As It Stands. Believe it or not, As It Stands was the first channel. If it wasn't for that channel, this channel would never have existed. Because of the success of that channel, it led me to want to create this Lakers channel. So do me a huge solid. If you're not subscribed over there, go check that out. Go subscribe over there. I talk all things sports, all teams, things like that, not just the Lakers. So if you just enjoy my commentary and want to hear me talk about other things, or you just, are a fan of other sports and other teams, go check that out. I promise you will not be disappointed. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.